the Hare Krishnas, every day is a holiday.
Wow, it must have been great.
I was like, okay, I'm ready. They had been established by Vajranama, that's Krishna's grandson. These refined Indian families, they won't understand like a small child speaking about this. You have to find a different story. He said, if you want the angriest form of Narasimha, this is not the one. It was all very, very top secret. And the reason why is because
In the beginning there were 36 Hare Krishnas imprisoned in the Soviet Union. Now there are only 5. And
It's going to be a big day, I'm sure.
I'm on TV.
Yeah, oh, well, this is part of your birthday present. So from all of us on Good Morning Australia, we wish you a very happy birthday. And keep up the tremendous work. There should be many, many more young minds like yourself out there trying to help the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Prahlad.
Hey, welcome to our special podcast today with Sri Prahlad, one of my favorite person that we have around in New Zealand. We have had a couple of sessions with him in New Zealand in the last 2-3 years, and has been a great experience for all of us. So without further ado, welcome to New Zealand back again, Sri Prahlad. How are you feeling?
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be back in the country of my birth.
Oh, really? Yes,
both
yes.
physically
Yeah.
and spiritually
Awesome.
as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's get into this then. Tell me about your journey. Like, where were you born? You said you were born in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And start from there.
Yeah, so my father was in the Hare Krishna temple in Adelaide, Australia, prior to my birth. And then he moved back to New Zealand. He was from Wellington. And he entered into a relationship. I was born. And so he raised us as Krishna devotees, but with not a lot of discipline. And at a certain point, his friends, like childhood school friends, some of them became Hare Krishna devotees, and they moved into the ashram in New Varshana in Auckland and got initiated in about, that would be like 1978. And then his brother as well. And then in 1979, he decided that we would also come here to New Varshana. And so, yeah, I remember my father telling me that we would be joining the temple. And I just started school, living in Wellington. And so I just turned 5.
Oh, just 5 years old.
Yeah. And then he said, we'll be joining the Hare Krishnas. And I said, you know, children, starting school, I was very aware of holidays. So I said, Dad, did the Hare Krishnas have holidays?
Good question.
Very important for a child
Absolutely.
just starting school. And he said, son, with the Hare Krishnas, every day is a holiday.
Wow, it must have been great.
I was like, okay, I'm ready. Because there's that famous verse in the Brahma Samhita where it says, in the spiritual world, every word is a song, every step is a dance, and
that's right.
every day is a festival.
That's right, festival. That's exactly what it is.
Every day is a holy day.
Holiday, that's right. That's a good one, holiday.
Yeah.
All right, so what happened? So 5 years, you moved from Wellington to Auckland, I'm presuming?
That's right. So we moved.
So how was that first interaction? Who was the first person you met?
The first
What
person
was
I
the thing?
met, yeah. So we arrived, by the time we got here from Wellington, we arrived in Auckland Airport and then caught a bus, I guess. Not many buses from
the airport.
from Auckland.
Airports.
Yeah, so airports to Auckland is one thing, but then Auckland to Riverhead, New Varshana is something else. And so I think we caught a bus and then a taxi, and by the time we got here, it was very dark. And it was a rainy night. In New Zealand, you know, there's rain. You can expect rain. And so it's getting dark, and then we went to at the time it was just a farmhouse on New Varshana, one building. So we knocked on what we thought was the front door. It turns out it was the back door. It was the kitchen door. And we knocked on the door, and Kala Samvara answered. And he was there cooking the offering for the deities because he was the head pujari.
All right.
And so he spoke with my father for a little while. My father said, "We're here to stay." And then he brought out a puri with some sabji and halwa. Gave to my father, gave to me. And then I ate the sabji and the puri, and I said, it was dark. I couldn't really see what we had. I said, "What should I do with the plate?" And he said, "Eat it."
Eat the plate.
Yeah, eat the plate.
Yeah. Yeah, puri.
It was a puri.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. And then and I thought, wow, this Hare Krishna is very special. You can have your plate and eat it too.
Must be an experience for you to. I mean, you already part of Krishna consciousness in some way, as you say.
Yeah, my father was chanting 16 rounds,
Yeah,
and
so you
we
knew
were
about
following. We were vegetarian and so on.
Yeah.
But it was a big change
Yeah.
moving into the ashram.
Yeah.
And I remember just seeing Radha Girdhari
Wow.
for the first time, and so beautiful. Also in that front farmhouse, just in the living room, basically. There was an altar there. And they really struck me with their beauty.
Yes.
And the opulence was just, the flowers and their sweetness.
Yes. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yes,
I still get
so
sometimes
beautiful.
mesmerized in the morning,
So I ran back and I said, "Dad, you have to come and see Krishna."
Excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we lived so all the devotees at that time were living in caravans.
Oh, really? Must be an experience for a 5-year-old boy.
So it was just the temple building and then caravans. That's where everyone was. And then the other building was the Goshala. So we actually stayed in the Goshala for the first few days.
Yes.
And then eventually we graduated
To caravan.
into one of the caravans that was the Brahmachari ashram. And then after some time, Harisori Prabhu, he was the GBC.
Yes.
He came through and asked why I wasn't in school.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, because 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the devotee said, "Well, we're trying to get him to Vrindavan, but we don't have all the documents for his passport and visa and everything." And then Harisori said, "Well, we've just started a school in Moolamba in Australia. I'll take him there."
Yeah.
And so the next day, in those days, you didn't need a passport or a visa
To go to Australia.
to travel to Australia. It was like domestic travel between Australia and New Zealand.
Which year was it? 1970?
79.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the school had just opened there in Moolamba. There were 5 children
Yeah.
just taking lessons under a tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he took me and enrolled me in the school there.
Wow. Really Gurukula school. I think
Yeah.
that must be really
Early days, yeah.
Starting under the tree.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How was that experience?
It was very special. It was really sweet. The relationships were very personal,
Yes. Yeah.
very loving, and Govardhan's beautiful. Like Vrindavan is so beautiful. Govardhan as well. It's rolling pastures and cows, and there's a river and a lake, and it was very lovely. Yeah, really loved being there.
Yes.
And loved the teachers and loved the other children, and it was a special time.
Did you miss leaving Radha Girdhari?
I did. So I would come back for my holidays because my family was still here.
Yeah.
I identified as being from here, and I was studying away, like in a boarding school.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so I would come here on my holidays until eventually that arrangement was that my father moved to Australia as well. Okay. So then I identified as a resident
in
there
Australia.
in Australia. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So the schooling and everything that happened in Australia, right through, did you do high schools and everything, the intermediate high schools?
No, well, now yes, but that's only recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like here in Yuvarshan, I think you're getting ready to initiate a high school.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And in Australia, I think they've done that at our school in Moolamba about 4-5 years ago.
Okay.
So it's quite new. They've built new facilities. Like here, you're getting new buildings and you have to, it's all to government standard and
Or the requirements that you go through.
That's right. Yeah, there's a process, and that's a strength of our schools here in New Zealand and in Australia as well, that they teach to the government curriculum, and there's the government oversight, but then there's also the freedom, not just the freedom, the expectation to teach our own teachings with the Sanskrit and the Gita and the kirtans and so on, the values. But with the government oversight, and it's a wonderful arrangement.
Yes.
And so, but yeah, adding a high school is a big step. And so, yeah, for me, that still wasn't available. I actually moved to India when I was 9.
All right. So between 5 to 9, you were in Australia.
In Australia.
And then after 9, you moved to
India.
Before we go into India part now,
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of stories to tell. Just go back to about your family, looking about your father, your mother, and how many siblings.
Right. So my mother didn't actually move into the ashram.
Okay,
There was
so
a
she was living
separation.
separately, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They went separate ways.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So what about your brothers and sisters?
So at this stage, there were no brothers and sisters. It was just me.
Just you.
I was the only child,
only child. Okay.
of my mother and
So your
father.
relationship with your dad was strong, or how was the relationship with your
very
father?
strong.
Very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Yeah. Subsequently, my mother remarried. My father also started another family. So I have siblings
Yes,
on both sides.
Yeah.
Some in New Zealand, some in Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Now going back to India, so you're talking about now going back to that 9-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm presuming never been to India before?
I
That
hadn't,
was First time?
Yeah.
Must be a daunting task that you
Yeah.
see all the noise, the smell,
Right.
people. How was it?
Yeah, well, I was very excited. So that seed was already there from when I was in New Varshana,
Yeah.
our ashram here in New Zealand. So the seed was already there that I would go to Vrindavan Gurukula. Even though Harisori took me to Australia,
Yeah.
there was already
We're looking for
that desire
was
to
there.
be in the Vrindavan Gurukula.
Yeah.
And when I was in Australia, I again heard more about the Gurukula in Vrindavan. And when my father first told me we're going to join the Hare Krishnas, and I said, are there holidays? I had this idea that we would be living as monks. That was that's what I thought.
But
It was going to be a monastery somewhere,
Yeah.
and we would be meditating
Yeah.
for some hours each day. And when I got to when I came to the ashram, it was halwa and gulab jamuns and festivity, and it was wonderful. With
Yeah.
Bhakti yoga, we engage all our senses in service. But I still had that kind of monk
Yeah. Where did that
desire.
come from?
I don't know.
5-year-old.
Maybe a previous life.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah.
A 5-year-old person, a boy thinking like this, must be a connection from the previous life, and actually having a desire,
Right.
to actually connect with the
Yeah.
with the Supreme Soul. So
Yeah.
coming back to this now, India, the experience in India.
So I had that idea that Vrindavan was the place where
Yeah.
I would be in a monastery.
Yeah.
And so, you go over the school was like a family.
Yeah.
And then I thought, no, the real, monastery, the monk life will be
Yeah.
there in Vrindavan. So yeah, as a 9-year-old, I flew there, and the arrangements were made for me to be there, and it was very special.
By
Yeah.
yourself, or did you go with
I
somebody?
traveled on my own.
Wow, 9-year-old traveling by your own
Yeah,
yourself, all the way from here all the way from Australia to
yeah.
to India.
To Delhi. Yeah.
Wow, must be an experience.
It was. And like you said, the culture shock,
Yeah.
arriving in a place. But
Yeah.
I guess I had been a little bit, you can never be fully prepared. But I was expecting difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd seen lots of photos and heard lots of stories.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I was received at the airport by the principal of the school.
Yeah.
And then he took me to the Delhi temple, which at the time was just a small little house. Radha Parthasarthi.
No, Parthasarthi, oh, beautiful.
worship
Yes,
there.
yes.
At Greater Kailash.
Yes, Greater Kailash, yes.
And then the next day we journeyed to Vrindavan, and I enrolled in the school there next to the Krishna Balaram Mandir. So
The same complex, wasn't it?
same complex, but
Yes,
you
in the
know, it
front.
really has changed
Yes, now
since
it's changed,
then.
yeah.
But at the time, it was quite distant from the rest of town, and it was still like a very sandy area.
Yeah.
It's called Raman Reti,
Ramareti, that's right, yeah.
and so Raman Reti is where Krishna and Balaram would herd the cows,
Yes, yes.
and the soft sand like talcum powder, very soft
yeah.
and pleasant for Krishna's feet and his friends. And at that time, there were these just wide open spaces, wide open areas where it is said that Krishna and Balaram and their friends would play as they herded the cows. So I had all of that imagery in my mind. The temple is at that place. So Prabhupada, he installed Krishna Balaram. It's called Krishna Balaram Mandir in celebration of Krishna and Balaram and their friends playing and sporting
Yeah.
in that sandy area.
Yeah. Give a context to the listeners. 1983, Vrindavan. Describe how was it?
Yeah. And so, well, isolated, but very peaceful. It was a place of lots of sadhus and peacocks. You would hear the peacocks' cries in the morning sunrise and sunset. And it's a place where you always hear temple bells ringing and kirtan from many different doors, from different temples through the day and the night as well. The Yamuna River flowing by the town. And at that time, we would bathe in the Yamuna.
Really?
Today, it's not possible, not recommended. A lot of pollution in the Yamuna. But in that time, people would bathe in the Yamuna regularly. And we would go there in the warmer time in the afternoons and swim there. Those wide open spaces. So we would play ball as well, like football and so on. All of that's been developed now. The apartment buildings and houses and lots of traffic and congestion, and you can't even move on that road in front of the Krishna Balaram Mandir. It's like the town has come there.
Yeah.
All kinds you can buy anything and everything there. Deities, you can buy dhoti, like saris and jewelry and restaurants and all kinds. But at that time, it was nothing.
Nothing.
But it felt very pure and spiritual. Now, some people complain, Vrindavan's become overdeveloped. That holy sanctity of that place has been somehow compromised by all of that development. But I think for me, as someone who likes to share bhakti, who likes to share Krishna's teachings, I don't see it that way. I actually get excited also.
Yeah.
I long, I yearn for those times as they were, but I also get excited that so many people want to come to Vrindavan and so many people want to see Krishna and participate in kirtans and have a place there in Vrindavan. So that's also nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember any friends? Just going back a little bit personal now.
Right.
Just this 9-year-old boy.
Right.
From Australia into India.
Yeah.
I'm presuming you were nervous. I would be nervous.
Right.
What sort of friendship did you make, and who were their friends?
Yeah.
Do you remember the names, or do you remember anybody in particular in that era? Just want to go back and you relive that moment.
Yeah, sure. So as for names, there were 3 Prahlads in the school.
Okay.
There was Prahlad Bombay,
Yeah.
Prahlad Kolkata,
Okay.
and Prahlad New Zealand.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was Prahlad New Zealand?
That was
you
me.
Prahlad New Zealand. Okay. So Prahlad New Zealand, Prahlad Bombay, and Prahlad Calcutta.
Yeah.
So all 3 Prahlads were good friends?
Yeah, we were friends.
Yeah. So tell us some stories on your childhood stories.
So there were about 150 students in the school.
Yeah.
And I would say half of them were from India, Nepal, and the other half were from the West.
Yeah.
The West meant America. So most of them were from the United States.
Yeah.
And there was one from Australia and New Zealand.
Sri Prahlad,
So in that sense, I felt, a little bit isolated.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
there was different groups of boys that all knew each other, and they knew each other's families, and so they had deeper connections. And sorry, for me, it was a little bit isolated initially. And I remember one of the teachers one day, saw me in the first few weeks and said, "Prahlad, you look sad. What's going on?" And I said, "I've been in Vrindavan for a month now, and I haven't seen the 7 temples."
Oh, okay.
And he said, "Okay, I'll arrange that for you."
Right.
And so the next day, a brahmachari took me to the 7 main temples
Wow.
of Vrindavan.
How was that experience?
Yeah, wonderful. Really special.
Very special.
Yeah, I'd heard about those 7 temples like through my childhood. And so it was a dream fulfilled to see them.
Very intelligent. Looks like you've been very intelligent, sort of a boy who actually knew a lot of things
Right.
at the age of 9. I mean, a lot of people in this generation doesn't have or would not have inclination, and also wouldn't be able to manage it on their own. I mean, and you remembering and having that craving, it's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
So just tell me the experience of being there in the 7 temples. How was it?
Yeah. So I think, I was independent, independently minded, would make my own plans and express my own will
Yeah.
and get my own way even
Yeah.
with my my father and other adults. And so going and seeing the 7 temples, that was my own arrangement. From 150 boys, I got that special pilgrimage
Wow.
arranged just for me. These 7 temples are incredible. So these temples were built about 450 years ago, after the time of Chaitanya. Then his leading disciples, the Goswamis, they established deities. Some of these deities were rediscovered. They had been established by Vajranabha, that's Krishna's grandson. So after Krishna left this world, his grandson wanted Vajranabha. He became the king of Mathura. And he wanted to establish the holy places of Krishna's pastimes. And he arranged for deities to be carved to commemorate these different sites, like the Keshava temple, the Keshava deity in Mathura at the Janmastan, where Krishna appeared. That was one of the deities he established. At Govardhan, he established Haridev. And we say Srinathji.
Srinathji, that's right.
Gopal Srinathji was established by him. And then in Vrindavan proper, he established Govinda. Krishna standing threefold bending form. That deity today you can see in Jaipur.
Yes.
In the royal palace complex.
Right. Yeah.
There is the main temple of Jaipur.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
So that deity was rediscovered by Rupa Goswami, established by Bhadranabh, re-established by Lord Chaitanya's disciple, Rupa Goswami. And although the deities in Jaipur, in Vrindavan, you can see the temple that Rupa Goswami's disciples built with the help of Man Singh.
Man Singh, that's right. Man Singh was one of the kings of
Jaipur.
Yeah.
And it's a magnificent structure.
Yes, I've seen that. Beautiful.
Right.
One of the monkeys there, though.
A lot of monkeys.
A lot of monkeys.
Watch out for the monkeys.
Watch out for the monkeys.
Especially if you have any food.
Yeah, did you have a monkey experience?
Monkey experience, lots of monkey experiences.
Tell me about your monkey experience.
In those younger days, I didn't have glasses, so I didn't have to worry about that. But Vrindavan monkeys are trained to steal glasses.
Yeah.
And if you have any food, then you're definitely in trouble. You're a target.
Yeah, and a fruity sort of bargaining.
Right. Yeah, well, if you get your glasses stolen, then you can bargain with a fruity.
Yeah, that's right.
You might get them back. So, lots of experiences having some food and having a monkey, come out and snatch it from me. Quite unsettling for a youngster to have that happen. I've had glasses stolen and, chewed up. In later years.
Yes, that's right.
Otherwise, those monkeys today, they've graduated to stealing cell phones as well.
Yeah, that's right. iPhones and cell phones.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So going back to this now, 9-year-old, how long did you stay in India for?
I was there, so up until 86.
Which was
So about three and a half
or so.
years.
3.5 years.
3.5,
Yeah.
4 years.
And then what happened after that?
So, well, let's say that, that summer, the boys would go back to the West. And I was expecting that as well, but then I got news that I wouldn't be. My father wasn't able to arrange the ticket. And so for the students who stayed in India, then they arranged a pilgrimage tour. We went to Mumbai, not really a pilgrimage site, but we went there to, it's cooler. Like Vrindavan gets very hot. Govardhan, it's in the Guinness Book of Records as being one of the hottest places on earth,
yeah,
right?
That's right.
So we went to Mumbai and we did someone had donated a bus for the school. ND Desai.
ND Desai, yes.
And a big industrialist.
That's right, yes.
So he had offered a bus.
Yeah.
And so we went there to Mumbai and we did some kirtan and some programs.
Which temple did you go to in Mumbai?
To the Juhu.
Juhu temple.
At that time it was we had the Juhu temple.
1986. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Radha
Rasbihari.
Yeah.
But the Radha Gopinath was...
That wasn't established at that time.
That came in 90s, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yes, around, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, 86. Yes, that's right, yes.
So this is 83, 84, 83.
Yeah. Oh, because 83 to 86 you were in...
Right.
In India.
And then the summer of 84, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
I was we were in Mumbai.
In Juhu Temple.
In the Juhu Temple. And we went to pick up the bus that was being donated for our school.
Yeah.
We also did lots of programs in Mumbai at the time. And I would go each day with Giriraj Maharaj.
Yes.
He was collecting to establish a school in Juhu.
Okay.
And so I would go with him, and then he would introduce me. This is one of our students from Vrindavan.
Okay.
And then I would chant some verses from the Gita.
Yes, okay.
And the people would say, "Oh, yes, you trained your students nicely."
Yeah.
And then that would be encouraged to support.
Your donation phase for raising money.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that.
Yes.
And so during the day, Giriraj Maharaj would take me with him when he went to meet different donors.
Yeah.
And then in the evenings, we would have programs. We'll do kirtan. And then Giriraj Maharaj asked me to speak as well.
Oh, really? So you must be 11 years of age, 10, 11?
I would be 10 here.
Wow, speaking and giving class.
Yeah.
Wow, how was it?
Yeah.
Nerve-breaking?
And so I gave my first talk.
Yeah.
And I said, there was a great saint named Haridas. And he was born as a Muslim. And he became a Vaishnava by chanting the holy name. And we are also Westerners, and we have also become Vaishnavas by the power of the holy name.
Wow, fantastic.
And then I told another story that once Haridas, some ruler, like a Qazi, became envious of him. And he sent a prostitute to entice him. And Haridas, he told her, I have made a vow to chant 300,000 names every day. You just sit here and listen. When I finish, then I'll satisfy your desires. And so through the whole night, she stayed there listening to the holy name. And at the end, he said, I'm so sorry I didn't finish. So you come again tomorrow. And then she came again the next day.
Yeah.
And he said, you just wait, you listen, and I will be chanting. And then when I finish, I'll satisfy you. And after 3 days, she had been purified by hearing the holy name. And she surrendered, and she also became a bhakta. She became a Vaishnava. And so I thought I'd given a good talk. But after, because the next day, Giriraj Maharaj also asked me to speak. So I spoke as well, and I told the same story. And then his secretary took me aside and said, Prahlad, you're a small boy. You're just 10. You shouldn't be speaking about prostitutes. And so, then all the adults, like these, these these refined Indian families, they won't understand like a small child speaking about this. You have to find a different story.
But look, courage for you to do that. I mean, look, for you to go along and speak in India and talk about those stories, and they're profound and they are actually very purified stories. You can see that if you see from the angle of what was achieved in the end,
Right.
they both glorify the holy name. So fantastic, and kudos to you to doing that at the age of 10.
Yeah.
So once that finished, then what happened after that? Like 10 now.
Yeah. So then when I was that March, we went to Mayapur
First time in Mayapur?
for Gurpurnima.
First time to Mayapur.
First time in Mayapur.
Wow.
So that's the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya in West Bengal, India. And when I was there, I saw the schoolboys there wearing Harinam chadars and wooden shoes and chanting Vedic mantras, Purusha Shukta and Sri Shukta and the Upanishads. And I said, that's what I wanted. They're the monks.
They're the monks. I've been thinking about that since previous lifetimes. Here you go. That's your chance.
Yeah, those are my monks.
Those are your friends. That's
and then
you.
Then I went and saw their school, and they were living in huts, like with a mud floor, like an earth floor,
Yeah.
and the walls made from woven bamboo,
Wow.
and the roofs made from thatch, from grass, and they take their bath from the lake or the well, like well water, no electricity, so like living off the grid, so to speak.
Yeah.
And this traditional Vedic style education. And so I went to Hari Sori, who was the GBC, who put me in the first
from New
school
Zealand,
in Australia.
Australia.
Yeah. And I said, I want to be in the Mayapur school.
Yeah.
And he said, no, you can't be. You're in the Vrindavan school. So I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
But then later on, when I was in Mumbai, my guru, actually, at the time,
Who was it?
that was, he's had difficulties since then, but it was Bhavananda
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Maharaj. So he came through Mumbai, and then we made his room nice, and we served him prasadam, and then he gave a talk, and he said, any questions? And I put my hand up.
Yeah.
And he said, yes, Prahlad, what is your question? Can I be in the Mayapur school?
Wow. You grabbed it, didn't you? What a good opportunity to actually ask a question like that.
And he said, yes.
Yes. Oh, that's it. You're done. Fantastic.
He said, bring me a pen and paper.
Perfect, man.
And he wrote a letter.
Yeah, that's it.
Prahlad should be in the Mayapur school.
You grabbed it, didn't you? That's it. Perfect. Served him nicely, looked after him, and asked the right question at the right time. Wow, fantastic. So then what happened? You got into Mayapur, did you?
Yeah, so I handed the letter to the headmaster, and they made arrangements for me to be transferred
to
the Mayapur school. So that was a whole other chapter.
Yes.
And the teacher, like the principal of the Mayapur school, was visiting Vrindavan, so I gave him the letter. And then the letter said that he should take me to Mayapur. But he wasn't going directly to Mayapur, he was going to South India.
Okay.
And so he took me to South India.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I was in Chennai, and we met another devotee there, Atma Tattva Prabhu. And they had a mission to order the Narasimha deity, the same deity that you see in Mayapur.
That's right, yes.
So they had been delegated to go and find the stapati to carve the deity.
Yes.
So I was with them.
Yeah, okay.
Just because I was being transferred to Mayapur through, like it's a, not direct route.
Yeah, but just why Krishna wanted you to experience that as well.
Right, yeah, that was it. So we went to a very famous stapati, and they showed him a picture of Narasimha Dev and said, we want to have a deity like this. And he said, why? And they said, to protect the Mayapur ashram community. So Narasimha, for those who are listening, he's a very fierce form of Krishna, half man, half lion. And the bhaktas, the devotees, they appeal to him for protection.
That's right, yeah.
And so they showed him the picture, and he said, "But why this form?" And they said, "Well, because he's angry."
Ugra, yeah.
Yeah. He's protecting Prahlad. And he said, if you want the angriest form of Narasimha, this is not the one. He was, the form they showed him, he was destroying the evil demon Hiranyakashipu. He said, but if you want the angriest form, it's before he catches Hiranyakashipu. It's just when he's come from the pillar to save Prahlad, to save that bhakta, that devotee Prahlad. That's the angriest form. Once he catches him, he's already like more peaceful. And as he's punishing him, even then he's more peaceful still, even though still angry. And so they said, well, if he's the angriest one, yeah, that's the one we want. The one just coming out of the pillar.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, I'll consult with the Shastras, the Silpa Shastras, in how to prepare this deity. And he drew a picture of how the deity would look.
Oh, yeah.
And then he went, so we traveled to different Narasimha temples because they wanted to see how Narasimha Dev was worshipped, just to learn the standards and the process. And so we traveled all across South India, visiting Narasimha temples, visiting Gurukulas as well. We also visited Tirupati and Srirangam and Udupi and Guruvayur, all these famous.
You got a good pilgrimage.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a pilgrimage of a lifetime.
Yeah, that's fine.
I always remember, because I was just 10.
Yes.
And it made such a strong impression
Absolutely.
on my mind, as, the Tirupati laddus especially.
Oh, yes.
As big as my face.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
And so we came back after 2 weeks, and then he showed the drawing. He said, this is how he will look. And he said, but I'm a little afraid to... Nobody's like, there are no deities like this. It's only described in the Shastras. There's only one other deity like this in Ahobalam, where Narasimha Dev appeared.
Yes.
Aside from that, nobody has this deity. And he said, I'm a little scared to carve him. And he said, I actually went to my guru. His guru was the Shankaracharya. Okay. And he asked his guru, can I have your permission to carve this deity? I'm afraid. And my guru said, who's so crazy that they want to worship a deity like this? He's so angry.
That's right, he's so angry.
Yeah, he can burn everything.
Yes.
And then he said, I told them it's the Hare Krishna devotees from ISKCON Mayapur. And he says, oh, they? Yeah, they can worship.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah. Anyone else, then I would say no, but they can worship.
Yeah.
And so he got his guru's permission, and he was feeling more peaceful to carve the deity. And then he went and found the shalagram stone, like a special type of stone, to carve the deity.
Wow.
And then... And then he called Mayapur and said, you have to come and take this deity. Like he's ready. Yeah. And he's in the warehouse, but my warehouse are already burnt down. You have to come and take him away. I can't hold him anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that must be experience for the Kawa and everybody else who's been involved in the process.
Right.
But for you, must be an experience as well. Going along South India and being part of the history.
Yeah, that's right.
I've seen the deities, and it's so beautiful. Yeah. And so merciful. You can see that for
Mayapur.
For Mayapur, absolutely. And for you to be part of that process.
Very special.
Very, very special. Great. Yeah. So then from there, did you end up going to Mayapur or did you stop?
I got to Mayapur eventually after a few months traveling.
Did you go somewhere else after South India or just that and then Tirupati and the whole pilgrimage and then end up in Mayapur?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then we arrived in Mayapur and I was put into the school there and very happy.
Yeah. How long were you there in Mayapur for?
I was there for a couple of years.
Yes.
And then eventually I had to come back to New Zealand.
Yes.
To see family as well.
You were a teenager by then, I'm presuming? 12, 13?
Yeah, 12. Yes. 11, 12. Yeah, 12. Just turning 12. I just turned 12. Mm-hmm. And so visited Wellington, visited Auckland. Yeah. And And then I stayed back in the school in Australia
Went back to
for a
Australia.
period,
Yeah.
in Murwillumbah.
Yeah.
And that's the time when I heard about the persecution of the Soviet Hare Krishna devotees. So up until that time, all the activities of the Hare Krishna movement in the Soviet Union, the communist Soviet Union, were fully confidential, secret, top secret. Nobody knew about it except Prabhupada when he was on the planet, and the GBC. Nobody spoke about what was going on there. For example, Indrajunda Maharaj, he tells a story that in the Paris temple, there was a devotee named Mandakini. She's actually the devotee that she married, like Prabhupada went to the Soviet Union once. He went to Moscow.
Yeah.
And he met a young boy that he initiated, Ananta Shanti.
Yes.
And then Prabhupada arranged for him to marry a French devotee, Mandakini. She was living in the Paris temple. And Indrajunda Maharaj told me, he said, every once in a while she would disappear for a few weeks, and I had no idea where she was going. Our temple president knew, but none of us had any idea what she was up to. But she would go to she would go to Moscow,
Yeah.
and she was supporting her husband in spreading Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Yoga across the USSR. So it was all very, very top secret. And the reason why is because anyone caught with the Bhagavad Gita at that time could be arrested, put in prison. Anyone caught with a japa mala, with the japa beads, could be put away in prison or a psychiatric institution or into a labor camp. And that was happening.
Wow.
And so to protect the devotees, then any activities from that place were just strictly confidential, top secret. So I knew there were devotees there. You know, I had that curiosity. You've observed that. I had the curiosity. But I knew there were devotees there, but I knew nothing about what they were doing or what the activities were, how many, where they were, if there were any temples. And then in 1986, the GBC in Mayapur, that's the ISKCON Governing Body Commission, decided to open it up and make all the information public.
Wow.
And the reason why is because by that time they had nothing to lose. There were about 50-something devotees in prisons and psychiatric institutions and labor camps
In Russia.
in the Soviet Union.
Soviet Union.
Yeah. And some had died. Premavati, when she was taken into prison, she was pregnant. And then she gave birth in jail, and she was allowed to see her child for 1 hour a day. And then after some weeks, that baby died. And so the GBC decided, let's just make this information public and put pressure on the Soviet regime to release them, rather than keeping all of this secret anymore. And so I became super interested in this case.
Yes.
And I wanted to know about all the devotees and their names and where that, like, what information we had about where they were and which prison they were in, and, you know, which part of the Soviet Union. And as I, you know, tried to get as much of this information as possible, I became inspired to write a letter to Gorbachev asking for their release. And before posting it, a devotee said, well, let me take this letter, take you to the local newspaper, the Daily Mail, and you can just show them the letter before you post it.
This is in Australia, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is Murwillumbah. So we went to the Daily Mail and...
Good morning, Australia. Well, my next guest has recently seen a very cherished dream come true. Almost 2 years ago, he became a celebrity at the tender age of 12 when he and other members of the Hare Krishna sect campaigned for the release of Krishna members imprisoned in the Soviet Union. Prahlada, as he is called in the sect, and other Krishna children recorded a record called Please Mr. Gorbachev, Let Our Friends Go. Well, when Prime Minister Bob Hawke went to the Soviet Union last year, he carried a letter for the Soviet leader, a personal plea from Prahlad. Well, now it seems Prahlad has got his wish. He very kindly joins me from Melbourne. Good morning to you, Prahlad.
Good morning.
Well, it does seem you got your wish. How successful has your campaign been?
Well, in a way, it was very successful because in the beginning there were 36 Hare Krishnas imprisoned in the Soviet Union. Now there are only 5, and also the devotees were imprisoned for practicing the Hare Krishna religion in their own homes. But now the Soviet authorities let them do that. They only are against the devotees chanting in the streets.
That must be very gratifying for you, Prahlad.
Oh yes, it's like all that I've worked for is finally, coming true.
What made you decide to write a letter so Mr. Hawke could take it to the Soviet Union?
Well, I was looking at the paper one morning, and then I saw how Mr. Hawke was going to the Soviet Union with a plea for the Jews for the release, and I thought that he could also ask for the release of the Hare Krishnas, especially Anatoly Penyaev, who was the first Hare Krishna devotee in the Soviet Union. So I wrote a letter to him and I asked, could you give this to Mr. Gorbachev, asking for Anatoly's release? And then he did it, and then a couple of days later, after he came back from the Soviet Union, we found out that that devotee was released. I was actually, I got to speak to him on the telephone and everything.
Terrific news. Prahlad, do you think world leaders really listen to kids like yourself?
Well, it appears that Mr. Gorbachev has. Yes, in a way, because it's not the type of thing that you hear every day.
Does the world disappoint you a little bit with all these tragic stories around?
Yes, it does. It's not what it's supposed to be.
But you're trying to make it that little bit better, aren't you?
Actually, I recorded an album in '86 with a whole lot of songs for peace and for against human rights violations and nuclear war and so on.
And how's the album doing? Well?
I think so, yes.
Great stuff. Hey, we want to say happy birthday. I believe you're 14 today.
Yes.
What are you doing for your birthday?
I'm not sure.
Well, it's going to be a big day, I'm sure.
I'm on TV.
Oh, well, this is part of your birthday present. So from all of us on Good Morning Australia, we wish you a very happy birthday. And keep up the tremendous work. There should be many, many more young minds like yourself out there trying to help the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Prahlad joining us there. It's nice to see kids out there being so enthusiastic.
We introduced ourselves to the editor-in-chief. And at that time, the Soviet Union was so topical. And then here's a local boy who's written a letter to Gorbachev around this issue. And so they did an interview with me, sent a photographer, took a photo of me holding my letter. And the next day I was on the front page of the Daily Mail.
Wow. Yeah.
And then when we saw the possibility of getting this information out, then we went to Brisbane, to the Courier Mail.
Okay, yeah.
And then, all the Brisbane newspapers.
Yeah.
We just went to the newspaper and asked to speak to the editor-in-chief and said we wanted to give an interview and to tell them about the letter we had written to Gorbachev regarding the case of the Soviet Hare Krishnas and the persecution of prisoners of conscience in the USSR. We went to the Gold Coast Times. I can't remember the name of that newspaper. And once we finished the newspapers, then I got my dad to drive me to the radio stations.
Well, you were on a mission, weren't you?
Yeah. And so my dad would be sitting in the car. I would go up to the front desk and say, "Can I speak to the editor-in-chief? I have really important information about the persecution of prisoners of conscience in the USSR."
Wow.
And they're like, okay. They would send a journalist, or they would put me on air.
Yeah.
So my dad would be sitting in the car, and then I'd come on the airwaves to talk about the Soviet Hare Krishnas. And then the television got interested in the story as well. And in the meantime, I thought that like my interview only lasts a few minutes. But if I could turn my letter into a song, they can keep playing it
That's a
through
smart
the
thinking.
day.
Yes.
Yeah. So we had a friend who was a musician, and we got his help turning the letter into a song, and then we recorded it with friends from school, from the Hare Krishna school in Moolamba, singing the refrain, "Please, please, let our friends go." And then Good Morning Australia picked up that story. That's a nationwide morning breakfast program. And so the CEO of EMI Records, which was the biggest record label in the world at the time, they were the record label that published all the music of the Beatles. He saw the Good Morning Australia story and heard the song, and he called up and he said, EMI wants to release this song as an LP. Well, as a single. But he wanted another song for the other side. So we recorded another song for peace, addressed to Reagan. One Gorbachev, another Reagan. It made sense to me at the time. And then he wanted another 10 songs for an album.
Really, just to make a full album, yeah.
Yeah. So there was, I think, 2 singles. And the album, it was in the charts.
Yeah, I thought it's given a Billboard chart, some top 50, 100. Where was it?
Yeah, top 50.
50, yeah, that's right.
And on the different music programs,
It was there for a
Countdown
long
and
time, I think.
Simon Townsend Wonderland, and every week we had television coming to our school in Moolamba.
Yeah.
The release of the Soviet devotees interned in prisons, labour camps and psychiatric institutions. To everyone's surprise, the campaign of the Krishna Kids encouraged thousands of children across the nation to write letters of concern to world leaders.
We would like to come to the Soviet Union and meet the Soviet children, maybe even your children, and show you that there is no harm in the Hare Krishna lifestyle.
Music is said to be the universal language, so what better way to ask for world peace than through a song? And that's exactly what 12-year-old Prahlad has done. Hare Krishna, and peace is an important part of his life. Prahlad and the Krishna Kids recorded the song Please Let Our Friends Go as a plea to the Russian leader to release 25 Hare Krishnas imprisoned in the Russian jails. What made you write the song?
Well, I thought that because we have freedom in this country, I also think that we should have freedom in the USSR and everywhere else in the world.
Do you think the record will work? Do you think there will be world peace?
Well, if everyone really wants it, if all the children really try to help, then I think we will eventually, we will see the start of the 21st century and we will have world peace.
Let the world see.
About the Soviet Union. Can you think of anything you know about the Soviet Union, Prahlad?
It's cold.
It's cold.
It all started in a history lesson. The subject, the Soviet Union and its treatment of Hare Krishnas.
We thought that if we wrote to Gorbachev and if we wrote a song for the world, that it might help in a little way.
Prahlad was born into the Krishna religion 12 years ago. He words to the song, a musician did the rest. What would you say to Mr. Gorbachev if you could ever talk to him?
I would tell him how I don't think he would like it if he were persecuted for his religious belief. Please, please let our friends go. I hope everyone will listen to the music and it will bring more attention to the human rights position in the USSR. Asking Mr. Gorbachev to let our friends be free and freeing the Soviet Hare Krishnas from being persecuted simply for their religious beliefs.
To help other people as well?
Yes, the song's for everyone. Hindus, Jews, Muslims, everyone.
I think people will be impressed by his sincerity, by his purity. You speak to Prahlad, you speak to the children, they have a great concern about their friends in Russia and also about the future of this planet. I mean, it's their future that we're talking about, and it's not only them, but it's also, you know, it's all, in fact, Prahlad is more or less calling on all children. Not just Hare Krishna children, all children to write letters to either Mr. Reagan or Mr. Gorbachev to establish a far better world where people like Hare Krishnas can practice a religion of their choice.
Are you going to enjoy the success it might bring you?
Yes.
People saying you're a good singer?
If the Soviet Hare Krishnas are freed, I think it would be a success.
And how about what your friends say about you, your ability to sing and make good music? You're not so worried about that?
No, not at all.
Doing stories.
Yeah. You got really got attention there. I remember, you know, there was a lot of information people started discussing. This suddenly became a big topic.
Right.
It became a big thing to discuss.
Yeah.
And I think you played a big part in that, you know, in terms of making that whole story come about. What was the outcome of that? Did you get something out of it in the end? Like, did they actually stop or did they release people? What happened?
Yeah, good question. So the immediate outcome was pressure on the Soviet regime.
Yeah.
We actually met the Soviet ambassador in Canberra, and we had a joint press release press conference, and I was saying, Mr. Ambassador, you have to release the Soviet Hare Krishnas in the USSR. And then he was saying, people of the press, I have told Prahlad there is no persecution of prisoners of conscience in the USSR. There were no Hare Krishnas in jails, no Hare Krishnas in labor camps. This campaign is like baseless. He just lied on camera to the Australian media. Later, in 1988, I saw a story that the Australian Prime Minister Bob Hawke was going to Moscow to meet Gorbachev. And he was going to raise the issue of Soviet Jews. So after the Holocaust, after World War II, there was the founding of Israel. And from all around the world, Jewish people were migrating
to Israel,
to that land, to Israel. But they were being stopped in the USSR from being able to migrate. And so Bob Hawke was going to Moscow on official business, but he was going to raise this issue as well of the Soviet Jews. And when I saw that, I thought, well, he has to raise the issue of the Soviet Hare Krishnas as well.
Yes.
And so we contacted his office, and they said, send through a letter, send through a list of names, and he'll take up that issue as well. And so he did. We got the information through to him. He took it to Moscow. He brought it up with Gorbachev. And within a few days of his leaving Moscow, Soviet Jews were able to travel and settle in Israel. And Soviet Hare Krishnas were released from prisons.
Wow. All of them or some of them? Or?
Pretty much everybody. You know, many things were happening at the same time. Timing was perfect.
Perfect, yes.
Because devotees had been protesting all around the world. So we had our song and we had our campaign in Australia. But in Sweden, there have been devotees doing hunger fasts in front of the Soviet embassy. In America and in London, in the UK and in Germany, like everywhere, devotees had been going to the Soviet embassies and doing protests. And so there was a lot of effort being put into this campaign internationally from around the world. And Gorbachev had announced perestroika, openness, that this was a new phase, a new chapter for the Soviet Union, where things would again now be open. And at the same time, Bob Hawke visited Moscow and gave that list of names. So all of these things, coincided and led to the release of those devotees.
Look, when I think about this now and analyzing this, it must be 15-year-old that time?
I was 12.
12-year-old?
By 88, 13.
13-year-old, teenager, fighting for a good cause, raising issues and going out there in front of media and talking to all these high-powered people and starting a movement, so to speak, to get everybody sort of engaged at a worldwide level with an impact, to create a genuine impact and to have that sort of presence of mind that this is what is happening and that Prime Minister is going to meet and he's going to raise some issue around Jews, and she took that sort of step to do it. Speaks a lot of volume about you and how you actually achieved that, and all those people who got released in that Soviet Union must be very, very thankful for your contribution. Have you met any of these people?
Good question. So I got to meet them just like a couple of years after. Right after their release, we had a phone call with Ananta Shanti from Moscow, and the press were actually in the room in Mawulambar when we had that conversation. And we were supposed to speak to the Prime Minister as well, but he got caught up in caucus. And so, but we did have Ananta Shanti on the line. And so he expressed gratitude And I expressed appreciation for his resilience and determination and wished him well, like starting a new life now.
Absolutely.
Outside of prison. And then a few years after that, when I was 16, I got to meet many of them. I visited Moscow. So when I was 15, Indrajumna Swami came to Australia, and I had just left school, and I was preparing to travel around the world to learn and explore. And he said, why don't you travel with me? Kala Sambara actually had told him, see this boy here? You should take him with you. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I had gone out, collected some money, and purchased myself a round the world ticket. So I was about to start my tour independently. And then he came through and invited me to travel with him. And I said, no, I already have my plan. But he said, okay, well, just come with me for a couple of weeks while I'm here in Australia and New Zealand. And so I did that. And at the end of the trip, I realized that everything that I wanted to gain from my world trip, I'll gain that and more by traveling with him. And so I rerouted my ticket to align with his, to integrate with his. And part of that is that we went, he had already gone to Moscow. And still the Soviet Union. He had gone in disguise wearing a wig and, disguised as a tourist, tourist/businessman. And so I got to join him, I think, on his second trip. And that was a couple of days or a few days after communism collapsed.
Wow.
It was just, the Moscow, the place that we had planned to go to visit was the Soviet Union. By the time we arrived there, the Soviet Union had disintegrated, and we were in Russia. And Yeltsin had been on top of the tanks just days before in front of the Russian parliament. And we could still see they call it the White House. They have one in Moscow.
Yeah.
That's the Russian parliament. It's a white marble building. And the Russian parliamentarians had barricaded themselves inside there. And the Soviet coup leaders had taken out tanks and blown out sections of that. We could still see.
Wow. Like just recent for you. Like
Had just been a few days before.
Few days before that. Wow.
Yeah.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah. But by this time, there was a temple in Moscow with a couple of hundred devotees living there, deities of Gornitai. Like things had progressed very quickly in that year.
2-3 years, yeah.
Yeah, of perestroika and glasnost and the devotees being free. They had procured a building. I don't know that anyway, they had procured a building and they had an ashram there as well. And then I got to meet many of those devotees who had been imprisoned.
Yeah, what was the response?
Very special.
Yeah, it must be really, heart touching. Like meeting those people whose life was pretty much finished, right?
Yeah.
And there was no hope.
Yeah.
And you came along and sort of kind of a hero for them. And then now they're facing the hero, like the real time. They're meeting somebody who has sort of saved their life.
Right.
It must be a different experience. How was
so there's
it?
something of what you're saying, but they were all leaders of many devotees at this stage, and they had like important positions. They were like revolutionary leaders.
Yeah.
And I was still a child.
Yes, okay.
So meeting a hero who's a child.
Yes, okay. Yeah, that's right.
And so there was a lot of kind of parental affection towards me.
Yeah.
And it was kind of different dynamic.
Yeah, I think you achieved a lot of things at very early age.
Right.
If you were like 25, 30, they would have seen you like a king or something.
Right.
But still, I think to get there at that age, it must be an experience,
It was, And so they would express a lot of affection for me and like help me and make arrangements for me.
Yeah.
Well, like a child that they're caring for. That's the way that their gratitude was expressed. And we had Harinam, that street chanting at that time
Were
on
you
that
allowed
visit.
to do it, or?
So we were, because of this kind of vacuum, power vacuum at that time.
Yeah, nobody knew which way it was going. Yeah.
It was
A few
still
days,
very open, for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And we did a Harinam on Red Square with 2,500 devotees.
Wow.
It was growing so quickly.
Yeah.
All across the Soviet Union. The former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
There were these pockets of devotees kind of just showing up, emerging. Maybe they'd been underground, or someone got a book, or someone had been in Moscow and seen the devotees and gotten a book and then taken it to their town. And so there were just groups just popping up everywhere.
Wow.
And then we were traveling with Indrujumna Swami and meeting these different groups. And doing programs with them. So he would give talks and we would do kirtan. And the questions would just go on for hours and hours. The kirtans would go on for hours. They were so keen, so eager. And that was such an incredible time.
Wow.
We basically, you could travel far because it was communist systems. And so the transport was basically public transport. And the Soviet Union is 10 time zones. Russia is 10 time zones. I think Vladivostok is the same time zone as New Zealand.
Yes, yeah.
and then you get to Moscow and you're in a similar time zone to Eastern Europe. So it was, it's a big country.
Yeah, it's a massive country. One of the largest in the world.
But you could travel. You could travel from Moscow to Vladivostok.
Yeah.
For like $3.
Really? How? What's the distance?
It's I don't know. It's 10 time zones across.
Yes. So it must be huge.
Huge.
Yeah, and $3 is nothing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we just had a stack of tickets on Aeroflot, and we would just be crisscrossing the country, meeting these different groups of devotees that were showing up in cities across.
Wow. It's like a full
former Soviet
fairy
Union.
tale story, isn't it? Like, suddenly, Srila Prabhupada started the movement,
right?
And got everybody, interested in
one
in
visit, and he lit the flame. Yeah.
And then the second time you guys come along, and you change this different level altogether. In terms of what you guys have achieved.
It was like a wildfire.
Wildfire,
that was just spreading across. Across the former Soviet Union.
So 2 years later, things change again?
Well, we spent a lot of time in Poland.
That's when the Poland tour started, right?
Yeah. It was the same time that the Polish tour started. Yeah. As far as the like the former Soviet Union and Krishna consciousness, I guess just over time, the country starts to reorganize itself and things start to normalize. Still, the spread of Krishna consciousness has been rapid. Even now, there are hundreds of ashrams all across Russia and the former Soviet Union. Russia and Ukraine are the two biggest places.
Yes. Yeah, Ukraine was a huge.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of the swamis, and he was telling me it's one of the biggest in the West in terms of numbers of devotees.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Between Russia and Ukraine, tens of thousands of
devotees.
Hare Krishna Bhakti yogis.
Yes.
In those places.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in Russia they started to have some pushback because as they decided from communism they were going to be Russian Orthodox.
Yes, that's right.
Christian.
That's when the things.
They started to try to like establish that national identity.
Yeah.
And they started, like in some parts, to put in legislation to ban the Bhagavad Gita and to restrict the activities of the devotees. But Russia has a very close relationship with India.
That's right, yes.
And so when they started to make those moves, India pushed back.
Yeah.
Indian parliamentarians and ministers said, you can't ban the Bhagavad Gita, you can't ban Kirtan.
Yeah.
And they backed off. And so they let us be.
That's right. I think I've heard about that in the parliament. It was very big push from the minister, prime member of parliament. Yes, that's amazing. You know, the whole mood in back. And so now what happened after that? So did you take initiation, or how was your relationship with Indra Swami, or what happened in your journey from that? Coming back to you now.
Right. Yeah. I had been communicating with Hridayananda Maharaj.
Yes, yeah.
When I was 13. And so I had established with him a discipleship relationship.
Yes, that's right.
And so when Indra Maharaj invited me to travel with him, I was already
in correspondence
with Hridayananda. And I'd already been accepted as his disciple. Not initiated, but I'd already been accepted as... Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that was a little period when I was confused as to what to do. Like, this is what I had planned. This is what Krishna's arranging. What should I do? But at some point I thought, well, Krishna's big. Like, the spiritual heart is big.
That's right.
If I have mercy here and I have mercy there and Krishna's arranged both things, why would I close one off?
Yeah, take it.
To reinforce it. Like, it didn't...
Yeah.
I just thought that it's mercy and it's mercy, so both are arranged by Krishna. So I'd take one as a Diksha relationship, another as a Shiksha relationship.
Yes, that's right.
And yeah, I traveled with Indra Maharaj for 18 years.
That's right. I've seen you quite a bit in that Polish tour, and been around with him, and he's got a nice group of people that does quite a bit of work with him, I mean, in terms of preaching.
Yeah.
Not preaching, what do you call them?
Outreach.
Outreach programs, so outreach program has been really, really good. So I think fantastic. So now, 18, I mean, did you do any work? Like, did you do part-time jobs or anything? Because you said you had some money to travel. How do you get that money? What did you do to raise that money?
Right. So yeah, with Indra Maharaj, we first I traveled with him around, but something special happened the first year that we went to Poland. He had planned for us to start in Poland and then drive down through Czechoslovakia at the time, then through Hungary, then through Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria, all the way down. When we got to Poland, the devotees organized, so we visited 3 temples, Warsaw Temple, Brasław, and the farm at Shantipur. And in Brasław, the devotees organized a public program in a hall. And Indra Maharaj gave a talk, and we did kirtan. He did kirtan, and I was his mridanga player. And people asked so many questions, and like I was saying, the questions would just go on, and the kirtan would go on, they would dance, and they were so enthusiastic. So he said to the devotees, if you organize more of these, I'll stay here through the summer.
Wow.
And they said, okay, we'll take you up on that. And so he canceled the rest of the trip. Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, that didn't happen. We stayed in Poland, and we traveled from city to city. And devotees were renting halls. We would go out on Harinam, distribute invitations, means we'll go for street chanting, distributed invitations. Devotees were putting up posters, and then we'll do these hall programs, and hundreds of people would come. And he would give the talk, questions, kirtan, some sweet bowls and tea at the end, and it was just amazing. Because communism had just fallen and they had been cut off from the rest of the world, there was this curiosity and eagerness to learn other things.
A new age thing, learning something new, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so there was just such an eagerness. And everywhere we went, there were hundreds of people that would come for these programs. There were a few devotees that traveled with us, some in a car. So there was one, people were poor at this time. One devotee had a car, so he was driving Maharaj and a couple of us. And then other devotees hitchhiked from town to town to, that was the team. One car and then some hitchhikers.
Yeah, that's right.
The next year, the following year, they organized a bus. And they invited all the devotees that were like in high school or university who had a vacation over the summer to join us for this festival tour. And then the following year, they got 2 buses. And the year after that, they got 3 buses.
Keep multiplying, yeah.
So it was just, that's right. And it was 200
Buses in
devotees,
the end.
200 devotees traveling across Poland. And then they decided rather than traveling across the whole country, just focus on the northern coastline, because that's where everyone goes for vacation over the summer. The towns empty out. I mean, there's still people there, but most people go to the coast, for the Baltic coast, for their summer vacation. So then we just started to focus on the coastline to rent, I think, 3 bases, 3 schools that were empty over the summer as a base. 200 devotees would be there. We'll go out and do Harinam every day. We'll distribute books and prasadam, and then we'll do 2 festivals a week, like these big hall programs. Then in time, we figured out that we could do not hall programs, but programs outdoors on a stage. At the time, it was a tractor trailer that we would just rent from a local farmer. So we'd do the outdoor program. It's summer.
Like an open space, like a
open
park,
space, yeah, like a park or a town square, or like the area in front of a hotel by the beach. And then we started getting 3 or 4, 5, 7,000 people a night. And so we'll do 2 of these a week. Then we realized that why break it down at the end of the day? We can do a 3-day festival.
Together, yeah.
Yeah, we can repeat it each night over 3 days and get 5,000 people each night for these festivals. And so that's what we started doing, 6 festival days a week.
Wow.
Over 2 months or 2.5 months. And that's been going on for 35 years.
No, fantastic. I think it's a clear sign of actually looking at adapting, and
Right.
being flexible to actually apply it
Right.
as you go, and a bit of a Kiwi ingenuity, I would say. We're always looking for some sort of smart way to do things,
Yeah.
Cool. So that's 15, 16 years of age.
Yeah, up to
89. You're 89, 90 now. So what happened after that? Did you go to university? Because there's a big story around a university as well. So what happened? How did you get into the further studies, or what happened?
Yeah. So this festival became like a major focus for us through the year,
that's
collecting for it as well, cultivating donors, writing up a newsletter, sending that out, getting awareness about what we were doing in Poland, and then traveling South Africa, the US, Australia, doing programs with devotees, but also meeting donors and cultivating donors to support what we were doing with those festivals with thousands of people coming every night. At some point, I decided that I wanted to like deepen my own education for outreach. And I started looking for university opportunities for university, but I was traveling so much it wasn't possible. But I kept seeing advertisements in airports in the US for Phoenix University, online degree. And so actually I tried with a correspondence school at one point, but the mail couldn't keep up with me because I was
traveling so much.
It didn't work. But then with the arrival of the internet, then I started seeing these advertisements for an online degree with Phoenix University. I looked it up and it was too expensive. So it was kind of out of reach for me. And then one day I thought to myself, I wonder if being a New Zealander might benefit me in this moment, like help me with this desire. And so I started to search the internet and I found the Open University. Is it open? The
Open Polytech? Or?
Open Polytech,
That's
in Wellington.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I submitted an application and I was accepted.
Yes.
So I did a degree in communication.
Right.
And as I was doing that degree, I took some courses in psychology as well. And I thought that would also be really helpful for what I wanted to do. And so I did a double major, communication psychology.
Wow.
With the Open Polytechnic of New Zealand.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was 4 years.
Yes.
And at one point I got a letter from the dean, I guess, who congratulated me for getting top marks in 3 modules, like top of the class for 3 different courses.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I'm actually pretty good at this.
Yes.
I didn't realize. That anyway, with that feedback, I realized I'm actually doing quite well at this. And so I completed that, and then I wanted to further it, like with a master's degree in psychology.
Yes.
And so for that, I actually moved to Auckland, and I did that degree at AUT, Auckland University of Technology, counseling psychology. And after it was a 2-year master's program, and after the first year, they offered me a scholarship to do a PhD.
Okay, great, fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, and so I took it.
So at AUT.
Initially, I started at AUT.
Yeah.
And then I got an offer from Australia.
Okay, Sydney.
I got a scholarship there as well.
Yeah.
And it was in the business school. So I took that, moved to Sydney.
Yeah.
And I did a PhD there on compassion in organizations.
Compassion in organizations. Oh, that's such a. I think we've been talking about this. Now I can relate to where you're coming from other day.
Right.
That's your PhD topic, because that's something which is very interesting.
Yeah.
As I see it, I mean, in certain sectors, definitely it's needed,
Right. Yeah.
Like mental health space is a big thing, in my view.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I have dozens of publications and top tier academic journals on that topic. I've written the textbook that's published by Routledge on organizational compassion.
Oh, fantastic.
And that's an area that I teach to. As I submitted my doctorate, I was offered a faculty position at a business school in Sydney. And then I got quickly promoted up the ranks. I was a full professor in London, teaching there in a business school. And then now I'm in New York.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So coming back now, I mean, your personal life, You want to talk about that a little
Sure.
bit? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did we need to get married and things around that, or how's it?
Yeah. So I'm married. My wife is Sri Gandharvika.
Mm-hmm.
She's a doctor.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's been a journey for us.
Yes. Yeah.
Because she had an interest in studying medicine as a young girl. She grew up thinking she would be a doctor.
Yeah.
In Belgrade in Serbia.
Mm-hmm.
And then she met the Hare Krishna devotees and she understood that she had to leave it all to join the ashram.
Yeah.
And so she lived in the ashram for about 10 or 12 or so many years, distributing books and serving. And then when we married, she wanted to go back to medicine. And we were living in Sydney at the time, so she's applying to different medical. Well, she did her degree at Sydney University, and then was applying to graduate medical programs, but couldn't get into anything in Australia. It was just not enough places for all the applicants that are there, and so she started working as an audiologist. And then, but that I could see that desire to be a doctor was so strong in her. Her father was a doctor, her brother's a doctor. She grew up thinking that she would be as well. And so then she applied to University of London and got accepted there.
That's great.
And then that took us to Europe. And that's why I was working for 5 years in London. In the meantime, also in Cyprus, I was there during the lockdown. The University of London had a branch in Cyprus. So actually her studies were there in Cyprus, but the closest that I could get a job was London. So I would commute between London and Cyprus.
Yeah.
And while in Cyprus, when she went, we tried to reach out and find devotees. We couldn't find anyone. But over time, we made some contacts and started to do some programs.
Outreach, fantastic, yeah.
And now there's like 35 devotees on the island.
Wow, fantastic.
And so I go there, even though, we've moved on from there. We're living in New York now.
Yeah.
But I do go back to Cyprus and just spend time encouraging those devotees that are there as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, great! Look, this is amazing, man. And how you in your life you actually been part of some bigger mission at every stage.
Yeah.
And I could see that that you've contributed so much. Whether it is growing up. And doing your cause that you did in that Russia space, and Soviet Union that time, and then coming back now in Cyprus, but not having a devotees, but actually building something with 35 devotees.
Right.
It's a massive task to actually make that. I know how hard it is.
Right.
To have that outreach going like this and contribute.
So I got to stay in Cyprus over 2 years of the lockdown.
Yes.
We can't reveal too much on a podcast, but I was working in London.
It's already happened now, so you can't. You already moved on and gone to New York now, so that's fine.
Meanwhile, I was in Cyprus with an apartment overlooking the Mediterranean. It was really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Would swim for a couple of kilometers each morning.
Wow.
As the sun was rising. It was really lovely.
Yeah.
And I was grateful for that time there, but then also helping to support a community of devotees.
You had some really great experiences in your life, man. I think as a child to where you're at now. What's next now? I know you get inspired by. I can see that you just pick things and you go and you make a big change.
Right.
So what's next? Where you're at?
Hopefully, some stability now.
I don't think you're meant. I think you're meant for some big things here. I think you every time you touch something has worked out really well for everybody.
Right.
I'm not sure about you personally. You must have been really, really happy with the outcome. I can see.
Yeah.
But so many lives have changed.
Yeah.
So there must be something in your head now
Yeah.
to do something like, if you want to reveal it.
Sure.
So,
So something that really excites me that I'm involved with is the Rishikesh Kirtan Festival.
Yes.
We started, Indra Maharaj started that.
Yeah.
It just in 2020, March 2020. Now that date, March 2020, might ring some bells for everyone's memory.
That's right. That's when the COVID happened.
The COVID outbreak. So we were in Rishikesh, which is in the Himalayas, the foothills of the Himalayas. There's a place that people go for yoga.
Yeah.
There's an international yoga festival there at that time. And Maharaj rented an ashram for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this kirtan festival. Morning, we have a morning session starting with some japa, satsang, and then kirtan for like a couple of hours and a workshop up to 12:30. A break, and then in the evening from 5:30 till 10:30 p.m. we have kirtan.
Wow.
5 hours of kirtan, and we cook for 500 guests. And so all the yogis from all over the world, Europe and Australia and New Zealand and the US, they're all there. And they come each evening and chant with us,
Wow.
dance with us, take food with us, take their dinner, prasadam with us.
Yeah.
And it's just such a wonderful
Wow.
festival.
Fantastic. So that's
And
your new thing, is it, for you?
So we started that just before COVID. We had to end it a week early because everything was locking down everywhere, and our team was from
Everywhere.
around the world, so
Yeah.
we're just trying to get people back to their countries. But we started it again last year, and then we've done it this year. So yeah, it's a really, really wonderful festival. From doing public outreach, you have to cast a wide net to try to find those few people who'll be interested. And in Rishikesh, the net has been cast. They've filtered in.
Yeah, they all come back for the purpose.
That's why they're there.
That's
Yeah.
right,
So it's a really, really special festival.
Yeah.
Then we have a Sacred Sounds festival that'll be happening in Australia
Yes.
next year,
Yes.
directed towards the yoga community, a kirtan festival. In the US, we have a Sadhu Sangha festival
That's in Dallas, isn't it?
in Dallas. It's
Yes.
moved around, but it's about 2,000 people that come for
That's in
3 days of kirtan.
May, June sometime, right? That's May.
And last weekend of May.
May, that's right. Yes.
Each year.
Yeah, that's the summer. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, those are some wonderful projects that are ongoing.
Yeah.
In New York, I am working with different yoga studios,
Yeah.
organizing kirtan
Yes.
programs in different yoga studios.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. There must be something happening in New York now,
Yeah, yeah.
because I come to New York quite often, and I'll be going again this year or next year.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have something going there.
Yeah.
Come along and see. I mean, we met last year, I think, when you
That's right.
and you came to the
26 Second Avenue.
that's right. You know, and it was
We
such
had
an-
already been in correspondence,
Yeah.
and then I was giving the talk.
and yeah. It was not planned though, because I didn't
Yeah.
know that you were coming.
Yeah, that's right.
And we just turned up like, I was like, oh, Sri Prahlad, we were talking to you yesterday. Didn't realize that he'll be here today, no? So it worked out.
Yeah, we were talking on the phone, and I
Yeah.
guess you assumed I was in London or something.
Yes, I was thinking.
And then
you
the
were
next
London.
day, we happened to be sitting in the same room.
Same room. Yeah, that was fantastic. I think, so great. And Polish tour, is it still going? Or
It's still going, yeah.
Still going? Are you still part of it
30-something years.
somewhere? Or
Not as much as I used to
to
be.
be, okay.
Like it used to be,
full on?
yeah, pretty much a year-round engagement.
Yeah.
These days, it's if I can get a weekend or so, or even some days, I'm lucky.
Yeah, yeah.
But Indra Maharaj is there through the whole thing. And that just goes on amazingly.
Fantastic.
But the crew that are involved with that are also involved with the Rishikesh Kirtan Festival.
So they know exactly.
Sadhu Sangha as well. So there are ripple effects,
Yes, that's right. So,
all the talent and expertise that
yeah.
went into developing that Polish festival, it carries over
Yeah.
to organizing these other festivals as well.
Wow. Look, fantastic. I mean, look, it's been so inspirational to actually talk to you. I think, there's so much, I think pretty sure the listeners would gain, and I have gained so much today. I think just to see that, never die attitude of yours. I think you have that in you that, if things doesn't work out the way it should work out, then you're always thinking about outside the box, and I believe it's a Kiwi ingenuity in you. Thinking outside the box to make things happen. I think this has been fantastic podcast. I'm sure everybody will take some good lesson out of it. Personally, I've actually learned, and I'm actually so inspired actually talking to you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about Kiwi land, about anything else that you think we need to work on, or?
No, I'm just grateful. The wonderful festival that you've organized here. My second year.
Yes, that's
coming to the national festival.
Yeah.
And we had a wonderful yoga kirtan last night.
That's right.
In Auckland. And so that was really well organized and it just came together beautifully.
Thank you so much.
And so looking forward to staying connected with that.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And it's always a pleasure coming to New Varshana and just seeing how things develop.
That's right.
There are the new buildings that I see.
Yeah.
Actually, I recognize the buildings because I would drive from here to AUT, past Massey University, and I would see that beautiful campus with the tiled roofed classes and other buildings.
Yes.
And then I recognize them here on the farm as well. Yeah, they look so beautiful.
Absolutely.
And it's always just so nice to see how things progress here and develop here.
Yes. No, look, we are so grateful to have you here. I think I said that yesterday as well. I think you never let anybody down, man. You are, in my view, superstar in terms of what you do. Inspire so many people. I'm so glad, and every time is an opportunity. It's actually a privilege to have you here, and I feel that we want to do more and more with you. So humble, so down to earth, to engage with everybody. I think everybody connects really well with you. So I'm so glad and so thankful to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an honor, a pleasure, a privilege. Yeah. And I guess I can say that I feel myself part of it as well.
Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
It's been part of my life.
Yes, that's right.
And so it's nice to stay connected as well.
Awesome. On that note, we'll end here.
Yeah.
But this is just the beginning. So we want to do more podcasts with you.
Okay.
So when we see you again, we'll do more. And we'll talk more about other things. So this is awesome. Look, thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Janmastami.
Thank you so much, Sri Prahlad. Hare Krishna.
Hare well.
Hare Krishna.